Hey guys, tightrope here. Today we're taking a look at the 1.6.0 patch for Company of Heroes 3. Specifically, this video covers the general changes, so that is the new vote to surrender system as well as the lever penalties, the new maps, the pathfinding systems, the visual changes in-game, so on and so forth. Specific balance changes will be in a later video. COH3 has finally had a vote to surrender system added to it. So for some of the basics, you access it through the escape menu. You cannot surrender in the first 5 minutes of a game. If you don't vote, that counts as voting no, and more than 50% of the team has to agree for the surrender to go ahead. So there will be both players in a 2v2, 2 out of 3 in a 3v3, and 3 out of 4 in a 4v4. So that's all pretty familiar, but where it differs from Code 2 is that the enemy doesn't know when you initiate a surrender vote. If you surrender instead of leaving the game, you still earn progress on your rewards, earning merit through the challenges system. And here's the big one. If you leave instead of surrendering, you can be penalized by being unable to start a new auto match game for a certain period of time. The lever penalty only stops you from being able to start up the queue of an auto match game, so that is quick match and co-op versus AI. You can still play other modes such as custom games, skirmish versus AI, and the campaign. It is also only triggered by leaving auto match games, so you can leave custom games and skirmishes to your heart's content. There is also a grace period, so if you only very occasionally disconnect, you probably won't ever run into this penalty. Here we go, we're going to test out the lever penalty in 1v1. So first off, there's no surrender button here whatsoever. I'm going to try typing /L. Too early to surrender. So yeah, if you don't have it, there's no timer here. I think I saw a timer on the Relic preview. It's interesting. And it says, quitting without surrender will trigger an auto-match cooldown. It is recommended to use surrender to exit matches. So this unfortunately applies to 1v1 as well, which doesn't make any sense because there'll be situations where you lost 3 units in the first 5 minutes and you want to go. Let's see if I can come back in now after that. I can't. Alright, well I'll see, I'll leave another game and then we'll come back, see what my penalty is. Well, I got Red Wings, so here we go, we're going to quit. And that's my second quit, no surrender in 1v1s in a row. Now let's see what happens if I go to multiplayer. Oh, no, can't do it. 50-second cooldown, so that's where it starts. So yeah, that's pretty mild. Leaving 2 games in a row. They said there was like a grace period where maybe I've used my 1 grace and now I'm starting to get into the lever penalties, and they said that the number would increase exponentially on some kind of cooldown system. So I imagine if I leave again, this will be maybe like 5 minutes and then like 50 minutes or something like that. So yeah, that's interesting to see. You can also see the cooldown timer down the bottom here, and now it's worn off and now I can start the match again. Overall, I'm on board with this lever penalty system. Kind of brings Company of Heroes more in line with other modern titles. I don't understand why it's applying to 1v1 at all. If you want to leave in the first 5 minutes of 1v1, I think you should be free to do that. But in other modes, you know, if you consider, you know, people might be in queue for about 5 minutes for a game in 4v4, and then that's 7 people affected by leaving, times 5 minutes, that's 35 minutes of human time wasted from somebody leaving straight away, you know? So I think that's only fair that they implement some kind of lever system like this. I just hope that the rest of Relic systems are adequate to kind of meet this challenge as well, because people, instead of just leaving, will probably go AFK for the first 5 minutes or try team kill their opponents. I hope the Relics like reporting and AFK detection systems can handle this, basically, because, you know, people can still grief in many other ways. They also made a change to what happens when a game ends, such as through victory points, by surrender, or through annihilation, which is what we're going to do here. We're going to kill off my opponent's base from the game, and then we get this victory screen play. But now you see that the game pauses, and you can look around the map. You can, you know, check how many kills you got or what kind of vet you got, stuff like that at the end of the game if you want to look into anything, see which of your units were heroes, and just survey the battlefield. See all the carnage, all the wreckage that was left behind. Here we are on the new 2v2 map, Operation Eindhoven, made by community member Spanky, This is a remake of the COH3 map, Eindhoven country. So let's have a look at the sector layout here first off. You can see you've got 2 low fuels close to each base, but no like munitions close to the base at all, which is a little bit unusual. Got these 2 cutoffs on either side as well. Then 4 medium munitions kind of close to the center. Then the big difference is this medium munitions on the outside of the VPs. The VPs have been pushed in slightly compared to the COH2 variation, and a medium muni on the outer edge. I think overall, in terms of resources, this gives us 70 munitions, which is a little bit on the low side. I think some other maps have 82, so a little bit on the low muni side. Pretty standard. Some maps have like 45 fuel, 50 fuel, but 40 fuel is also pretty standard there, so not a huge difference. But yeah, maybe slightly low on munitions. Let's have a look around it. Going to be very familiar to the COH2 players, though I will say one big difference is the amount of elevation on this map. There is a lot more elevation on this than on the COH2 variant. And I actually saw a comment underneath it when this map was announced that somebody said they lived in Eindhoven, and they said that it's actually very, very flat there, so this elevation is maybe not really correct for the location. So I don't know if that's true or troll, but either way it's pretty funny. I thought it was worth mentioning. Yeah, looks pretty nice, looks pretty nice. And here we go, this is like the most iconic area, remake of the castle type area. Very grey hue to this whole thing though, right? A lot less shiny than the COH2 map was. A more dull overall colour space. Seems like this building as well has been tweaked, kind of blocked off on the side in terms of like cut-off play, limiting things a bit more. So it's interesting. One more thing that I wanted to mention is that these bases are quite close together, so you will be able to share healing with your teammate. So yeah, let's look at the new 2v2 map. Good on you, Spanky. Now we're on the new 3v3 map, the Gothic Line, made by Tobe. Having a look at the sector layout here first off. You can see we've got 15 fuel close to your base and 10 munitions before the cutoff. So quite a lot of very safe resources on this map. Then you can see over here, we've kind of got these pockets where we've got a medium fuel, medium munitions, BP, all in this little area. So I imagine these areas on the sides are going to be very hotly contested. A lot of important resources here. You can also see that the VPs are not evenly spaced down the middle. One VP is kind of closer to each base. So maybe, you know, this side will favor this one. This side will favor down here. Maybe that will be the kind of split, more diagonal split on this map compared to some of the others. So it's interesting. Overall, in terms of resources, I think it's got 50 fuel, so a higher fuel map, as well as 70 munitions, so like a lower munitions map. But also got 6 standard territory points, which I don't think we've seen so far. Or what are they called? Strategic points. That I don't think we've seen so far on any map. I think 5 has been the max until now. So a lot of cut-off potential on this map if you can manage to get your way down here. So let's have a look around at it. Very green and brown, kind of a more orangey hue to the map than what we've seen from a lot of others so far. Nicely decorated. Oh, we've got a whole like bunker situation going on over here. High walls, a lot of tank trap type situations. Got a road going down through here as well. Vaguely reminds me of Mignano Gap down here. And what was that other castle map in COH2 that had the 5 VPs? Kind of reminds me of like the southern area of that map. Oh, what it's called. Bit of an industrial type area. A lot of elevation coming into the middle of this one. Big time elevation. Pretty important building here. Windows in every direction, good for machine guns. Same kind of bunker formation on the other side. Don't think you can get into this, right?
Pioneers, we will get there.
Just looks like you might be able to.
Move orders. Get to
Can't get into any of these.
Consider it done, Commandant.
A few trenches around as well.
Covering ground.
Looks like it might be hard with just like a normal right click to get your squad
On your feet,
all on the right
pioneers.
side of cover. At least on the right side of this. That's kind of interesting. You're going to have to use drag clicks.
Starting the
You're
advance.
trying to get cover from enemies coming in from this direction. Alright. Gothic Line, eh? 3v3. 3v3 is not a very popular mode, but I imagine as more maps start to come online for it, it'll pick up in popularity. Look forward to playing on this one myself. Here we are on the new 4v4 map, Oasis Depot, made by community member Spring Rare. This one was actually the winner of Greyshot's 4v4 map competition. I guess that was like about 10 months ago now. Finally making its way to auto match. And that's a good thing because this is, yeah, the winner for a good reason. So first off, let's have a look at the resources. So close to your base, you've got 2 low munitions, 1 medium munitions, and 1 low fuel though. I will say that this is probably quite easily harassed, like these medium munitions close to the center of the map. So it's not super safe, even though it can't be cut off. It's not super, like, yeah, it's quite easily harassed directly. Then, as I said, there are 4 cutoffs here, which are very prominent, I'd say, in the gameplay. Probably the most cutoff heavy map of any of the team game maps so far, especially with the medium fuel towards the outer edge. You know, you'll want to come out here, cap this, but then it might be cut off. These cutoffs in the water here. So maybe that will be the avenue to harass resources. Might be quite a lot of cutoff action happening all round on this map. So that'll be interesting new dynamic. I haven't really seen that too much from the COH3 team games to this point. Overall, in terms of resources, a high resource map, I think it's 50 fuel, 80 munitions. So high resources overall, maybe making up for the fact that you're probably going to be cut off a little bit more often. The high resources should bring you back up. But yeah, interesting like design on this one as well with all the layout. It's very cool. So let's have a look around it now. Will be familiar. I believe they have made some changes to it compared to when it won Greyshot's map competition. I think largely like through this water area, things got opened up a bit more so that light vehicles could pass through more effectively. Some changes like that, which is good. Quite open on the VP. Got a few sandbags either side. I think there used to be some buildings down here. Yeah, there used to be a few more buildings around, which look like they've been reduced compared to how it used to be. Interesting. Here's a bit more of the like city type area. Could be some tough fighting over this cutoff with all these pretty strong garrisons standing nearby though. In this patch they also changed it so the elevation bonus isn't as cover negating. Doesn't negate cover anymore, just gives you bonus accuracy. So having rooftop buildings is not the GG move like it used to be. They're not as strong. Can be a fight from like against them from walls. So it's important to note when seeing a map like this with so many rooftop buildings. We'll be able to fight against them more effectively this patch now. Very nice looking map. Definitely on par with the Relic made maps in terms of visuals. Bit more of like a ruins type area down the bottom here. But yeah, the oasis in the center. Very nice. Look at this water over here. That's good. That's good stuff. Yeah, the central VP kind of on the island, but there's a lot of access points to it, which I hear have been widened as well. So it shouldn't be too hard to get up here. So remember they did make some changes to bridge health and repair times and whatnot in the previous patch. So yeah, again, looking forward to trying this one out. You know, I might have to strap on, play some team games with the arrival of these new maps. A rare sight for me. New in this patch is this button up here, which is called Accolades. This is the new progression system. I believe there are 10 tasks for each faction, and they're kind of like, you know, do a mission or produce units, stuff like that, and in return you'll get rewards. I believe they say you can get merit, and you can also get things for your profile. So these kind of banners up here, if you go to your loadout profile, so badges, titles, banners, I imagine for the respective factions as you complete their tasks. So it's nice, you can complete these anytime, there's no time limit on them like there is for the challenges. Just complete them over time and then you can customize your profile a bit more. Speaking of challenges, they've made some changes here as well. They've added one extra daily per day, which is going to be for single player. So, you know, if you're mainly focused on single player, you can now get some extra merit, and you just want merit, you can just farm this up faster. They've also changed the weekly. They've changed one of the weekly missions and they've moved it away from multiplayer. They've made that single player as well. But in return for that, these have been increased in value from 250 to 400 now. So I think that's overall a buff, right? Because 3 times 250 would be 750 and now it's 800 just with 2. And you have to do less potentially. So yeah, they're being a bit more free now with the amount of merit you can earn, especially if you want to do some single player stuff. If we go into the single player menu, you can see there is a new button here called Mission Select. And yeah, there's a bunch of the different campaign missions here you can just play through. Don't have to actually go into the campaign. So if you really enjoyed a mission, that's cool. You can just play it to your heart's content. You don't have to worry about creating saves or playing your way back to there. So it's nice. They say that they give you like a kind of army that's roughly equivalent to where you'll be in the campaign. So yeah, you know, you get some upgrades and you unlock stuff as you go through the campaign. So they're giving you a rough equivalent to play through these, which will help you with those achievements and challenges that we saw for the single player earlier. So that's kind of cool, a new way of accessing some of the missions. I do have a bit of a bone to pick here though, because previously you go single player, you wouldn't have to move your cursor at all and you'll be on skirmish. But they've put mission select in skirmish position, which I don't like. I like being able to just lazy click here again and I'll be in a skirmish. Because I think like basically everybody is going to be playing skirmish, single player skirmish, 100 times more than mission select, right? So being able having to move your mouse up here to get skirmish, then have to move your mouse back down here to skirmish again because of the load screen. I don't like that inefficiencies with the mouse movements. I don't like it. It's the same story with multiplayer as well. Like multiplayer and you're on custom game, it's your quick match. So switch these around, quick match down the bottom, so you don't have to move your cursor at all. You can just be right there. And if you want to play co-op versus AI, come into that here. Now you've got a new option. You can select AI difficulty from easy to expert. I think previously it was always locked onto standard. So this is nice. You've now got the option. You know, if you want to play against something harder, you can go for expert, or if you just want to like stomp out some challenges or something, you can go with easy. So that's cool for the AI guys, comp stompers. Also on top of this, they made some changes to the AI as well. Just generally made them smarter about how they handle engagements a bit. Made them so they can recruit team weapons. So yeah, it should be more enjoyable overall to play against AI. I think if you're like a serious comp stomper, you're probably just going to be doing custom games on custom maps with also the improved AI. Like some people have made AI mods, so you're probably still going to stay with that. But yeah, overall, great for the comp stompers. Nice to see. Having a look at a few of the visual changes in game. First off, we're looking at the colored decals, these kind of blue stripes that are on my vehicles. You can now turn these off. So if you come into the menu, go to settings, gameplay, show color decals, structures only. And now they're disappeared. Especially if you go into like screenshot mode here, which is Control-Shift/. Notice you get some really nice screenshots. I think if you're playing in game, you know, having these colors on is probably kind of helpful. So I probably leave them on personally. But yeah, especially for screenshots and stuff, that's a nice setting. They've added a new animation for when your unit's fit up. I'll add a star here to the Panzer III. So it kind of flashes up. And 2 kind of flashes both of them. 3 flash, flash, flash. So I think that's nice overall. Maybe a little bit large, but yeah, it's fine. They've also changed how buffs and debuffs, stuff like that, appear above units. And this is really nice. So say if we activate Hold Fire now on the Panzer, it's kind of like a grayed out stop sign. Prioritized vehicles also grayed out. So I think like passive type abilities are in grey like that. If we activate the commander mode though on the 8 rad, because it gives it extra sight, it's now got a green eyeball. And then over here, this has got this kind of buff type icon. Same story for combined arms on squads and stuff. They've also got that buff. Overall, as well, these like are smaller than they used to be, which I think is good because they were getting a bit large. And then yeah, you can see green for repairs. I think it's green for healing as well. Yep. So buffs are in green. I think debuffs, we'll put the Humbus Flare above these guys. They will be in red. So I think this is overall like a pretty good system. Makes it a bit more obvious what's going on. Declutters the UI a bit, shrinking these down in size. The last thing I want to cover in this video is pathfinding. There have been some pretty major improvements here. Starting out, we're going to look at reverse. And I think in the previous patch actually, there was kind of like a reverse issue introduced, where that if you kept giving reverse commands to a vehicle that was reversing, with every command they would kind of stutter, like even if it was straight behind them as best as you could, and it would slow them down with every reverse, which, you know, if you're playing on the default camera zoom, you can only, like, this is typically how you drive, right? You reverse, maybe like 10 range behind you, pretty normal, and you keep giving commands. You might want to like try and drive around some obstacles, not just giving like a huge reverse command over to the other side of the map. So I've got a before and after of this footage. We'll try it out here. What we're going to be doing here is we're going to be reversing with this one just to here, and with this one we're just going to like keep getting reverse commands along this line and drive it and see what the difference here is. And we've got a before and after. So reverse this one. Oops. Oops. Don't use tactical too often. And we'll hit reverse here just for the start, but I'll manually control it going forwards, or going backwards. You can see that I'm not losing any pace relative to this, whereas before this, this vehicle ended up being, I think it was like almost 10 range difference. So yeah, that annoying stutter that you got as you were reversing has now gone, which is a huge improvement. I'm really good work on this, DVM, if you're watching. Well done, son. They have reduced the range on what I would call auto reverse on right click. So previously, if you would right click behind your vehicle up to 40 range away, which is back here, your vehicle will just reverse there. But now it will try and turn and face there. In fact, they reduced it to 20 range now. So 10, 20 here. If I click here, it'll try to drive, to spin and drive their head on. But if I click, let's just get this. But if I click here, it'll reverse. So yeah, that's a really short distance now. 20 range. I think this auto reverse on right click was at 40 in Company of Heroes 2. So they're reducing it from Code 2. It doesn't really affect me too much, if I'm honest, because I use reverse when I want to reverse anyway. So maybe this is even a slight buff to me. But yeah, for people who don't use the reverse command, maybe they're not as familiar with the hotkeys. They're going to have a bit more trouble here, I think. One thing that I wanted to double check here is whether this also affected team weapons. Because obviously, you know, if you're right clicking behind your team weapon, the enemy's probably facing this direction where you're coming from. So you want it to be facing this direction as it runs away. But it looks like it's maintained its previous range, which I guess would be 40. We'll go check here. Yep. Go a little bit further than 40 and it tries to spin around. So your team weapons are unaffected by this change. It's just vehicles. So you can still right click behind your team weapon, make sure that they're facing the right direction as you run away from the enemy. They made some big changes to the pathfinding of casemates, things like the Marder Stug vehicles with no turrets. Basically, what they tried to do is make it so that the barrel of the gun wouldn't like face away from the enemy during their pathfinding maneuvers. So I've got a before and after of this. Basically, we'll say the enemy is over here. I want to do a reposition over to here, but I still want the gun to be facing this direction. Let's see how it goes before and after these changes. So it's a tighter turn now. Coming in here. And then repositioning. Whereas before, it would go way further forwards, around, down, and then, you know, when you're over here, you'd be facing pretty much completely the opposite direction of the enemy before coming back around. So that more S-shaped turn, especially on casemates, could be really punishing during repositioning maneuvers. They also mentioned that they made some changes to the long-range pathfinding as well, so that hopefully you end up taking more direct routes to get to where you want to go. So I'm going to right-click 100 range away. I've got a before and after of this as well. Got to do a turn at the start. And then we're driving there. So yeah, I guess the before and after footage will show whether there's a change. I think previously it ended up going quite a lot wider and then before converging over here. Does seem to be in effect. They also mentioned in the notes that you should do donuts less often now with your vehicles, so that's really nice. You used to like spin around in circles, driving around, exposing your rear armor to the enemy quite often, and that should be fixed. Unfortunately, with that kind of stuff, it's very hard for me to do like a before and after. Hard to like replicate those kind of scenarios, so I couldn't really demonstrate that for you guys. Same story as well, they mentioned that you should drive into areas head on more often instead of reversing in. So that's probably also for the best given the front and rear armor system in this game. And yeah, maybe there are probably a few other little pathfinding changes here and there, but those are the big ones. So yeah, really good stuff here on the pathfinding. Obviously I'm going to have to play some games to get some experience with it, but early signs are promising. And as I said before, good work here, DevM. He seemed to be the one who was in charge of this. Nice stuff. As always, a huge thank you goes out to my Patreon backers, and if you enjoy my coverage, I really hope you consider signing up on there.